Once again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's Accenture and Smart Service Welt event. We had this event already yesterday and 2 days ago. Yesterday we talked about future mobility. 2 days ago we talked about Industry 4.0. And today we will talk about digital, and I hate this word, really, digital life. And we will have keynotes with around this topic. The overall question we have today is, how does the digital transformation impact our everyday life, mobility, whole industries and established or new business models? You know, smartphones. There's a smartphone and over there, or tablets or fitness bracelets. These are only the tip of the iceberg. The lines between reality and virtuality become more and more blurred. So today we will have keynotes from leading industry experts and from innovators, and they will talk about how these new technologies change our life. Before we start, I am very sorry, ladies, I have bad news for you. Till Schweiger was expected to be here today. I was really like this, but he chose to be in Hollywood, not in Hanover. I don't know why, but we have other gentlemen here on stage, so I think we will have a nice 2 hours. Let's start. 2 gentlemen, they are from Accenture itself. Both are managing directors. The first one is a technology enthusiast, and since 2013, he leads the communication, media, and technology business for Accenture in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. Welcome, Denis Gassman.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Welcome.
Thanks, Annika.
And the second is also managing director and drives digital growth, transformation, and strategy for Fortune 500 companies, Dr. Ramin Kress. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I love that you have this with you, not the cards like me.
Yeah, that's
digital
life, Annika.
Digital.
Crazy.
That's the whole ambition of it.
I have to download the app later.
I will give it to you later.
Thanks a lot.
I'm upset that you're upset that Till Schweiger isn't here. We're all disappointed, but I hope we're not disappointing you too much.
Perhaps I'm happy he's not here.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much, Annika. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show the next 2.5 hours here. Ramin, we already had a very good expert talk, basically up here in our stand about digital life.
It was absolutely amazing. We're very happy to be at the CeBIT. We had a fantastic session. It was very hot in the room, but we had a very good exchange of ideas and definitely some thought leadership that was present in the room. So it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start. We have some really tremendous speakers for you. Very interesting guys from all over the world. First of all, We're going to have one keynote speaker that Ramin's going to be introduced. After that, today, we have Luke Wood. Luke Wood is the CEO of Beats by Dr. Dre headphones. Now with Apple, we have Geoff McKellar. Geoff McKellar is the CEO of Emotive. Emotive is doing brainwave control, so you can actually steer wheelchairs only by your brain. We have Jack Ramsey here with us. Jack is from Accenture. He's our global digital delivery lead, and he will talk to you about the technology vision we as Accenture issue every year and what the impact is on digital life. And we will also have Ulrich Schmitz and Jörg Reinbold from Axel Springer, the CTO of Axel Springer and the lead CEO of Axel Springer Plug and Play Incubator here today talking to you about also the disruption of the media industry.
Guys, what a fantastic lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Paul Breitenbach, one of the pioneers of the early days of the internet, who was pivotal in creating a category that we now know as e-commerce. Paul is a visionary when it comes to leveraging the digital consumer. With Priceline.com, a global company that is now worth $60 billion, he and his co-founders revolutionized not just the travel business, but the way that brands and consumers interacted. Priceline.com was a poster child for how to create new digital interactions with consumers. And they did that by changing the way that brands interacted with the consumers. Simply laying out the products, but actually asking the consumer what they wanted and what they were willing to pay for it. So that sounds quite simple, but today that simplicity enabled them to create an immediate and direct relationship in a very fiercely competitive new digital environment. So the internet sounds very obvious to us, but back then, nobody had even thought about this. Now, with this latest venture, the story continues, Paul. With R4 technology, Paul is bringing the consumer approach and capabilities to all global companies, so they can change the way that they interact with their consumers, and that in a day and age where the digital consumer reigns. Welcome, Paul Breitenbach.
Paul Breitenbach.
Thank you, Ramin. Let's just see if this is working. Uh-oh. Oh, is that it? Thank you, Ramin, and thank you, Accenture, for inviting me to be here with you today. I'm delighted to be in Germany, which is where my ancestors came from, to talk about innovation in digital life. Germany's always been known for being at the forefront of technology and engineering, and it's amazing to see around us how much innovation in digital technology that is coming now here out of Berlin. Berlin is buzzing. It reminds me of Silicon Valley. I'm based in Connecticut, which is where we started Priceline and where it's still based today. It is sort of the Silicon Valley of the East. As Ramin so articulately said, I was one of the founders of Priceline, which was one of the early pioneering companies of e-commerce. Few people know the secret behind Priceline's success, but its success was its ability to create and leverage data. With some of my Priceline colleagues, I'm now the co-founder of R4, a cloud-based data science company that is transforming the way that brands and consumers interact in the digital world. We're also just about to launch an innovative technology accelerator to help support and drive digital innovation with data-driven startups. The internet ushered in a new age of connectivity and always-on communication. The internet grew up from being the domain of geeks to being a place that brought the world closer. The internet also delivered on-demand information and created a mass market within some of the largest businesses in the world were born. Think Amazon, Google, and of course, Priceline. But digital is bigger. It is much, much bigger. It's reached way beyond the internet. Its presence is felt beyond computers, and it's growing exponentially faster than the internet ever did. And unlike the internet, digital has never been the domain of geeks. It's something that's fundamental a part of people's lives nearly all of the time. This is what makes digital so important. Unlike when the internet was born, where it took 10 years for consumer adoption, in the digital revolution, consumers around the world now are completely digital, and the rate of change is only getting faster. In the digital world, things we took for granted are no longer so certain. I don't need a TV to watch TV. I don't need a radio to listen to the radio. Indeed, I can even now listen to the radio on my watch. I don't need to visit a bookshop to read a book, and I don't need to visit the doctor to receive a diagnosis. I don't even need to carry cash to be able to buy things. Digital has certainly transformed the way of doing things and puts the consumer in total control. So how do commercial organizations respond? How do they leverage digital for commercial gain? How do they become an integral part of consumers' digital life rather than an outsider desperately trying to break in, or even worse, a bystander as they're publicly disadvantaged by digital disruptors? And how do companies flourish, profit, and unlock value in the digital era? To be a serious player in digital, there are some important changes that every company needs to go through and some key mistakes to avoid. First, every company must turn towards the consumer. Even if they've never had historically a relationship directly with the consumer. And data is the key to this. If you're a book publisher who's only sold books via bookshops, you need to create a relationship with consumers. Otherwise, your whole business is dependent on a handful of companies, mainly Amazon. A successful, groundbreaking global example of leveraging data was during the World Cup last year, where we used our data science platform to make some of the most static and uninteractive digital touchpoints exciting across a mobile global network of thousands of vending machines. Yes, you heard that right. We used mobile to enable vending machines to allow consumers to play footballs with their favorite stars. We gamified the most boring self-service retail unit to create a deep and lasting connection with consumers and build relationships. But the most important result were the results that came from it. We drove sales of over 25% and increases that now have grown to over 30%, and those results have only gotten better, even though the World Cup is long over. This is what is at stake with digital. When done correctly, digital will drive giant increases in sales and equally large cost reductions. Value in the digital world comes from leveraging insight directly with consumers. And there are many strategic reasons why direct consumer relationships with consumers matters. If you don't move in this direction, you're otherwise handing your consumers to Facebook, Google, or Apple. Creating relationships gives you distribution, it gives you feedback from the people who are consuming your products, but more importantly, it gives you the biggest single revenue opportunity. Creating direct digital relationships is a multi-billion-dollar revenue opportunity for your business, and it enables your brand to become the disruptor, not the disrupted. On the screen, for example, Pinterest is a company that's less than 5 years old with 70 million users and is valued at 11 billion. And for those who don't use the service, it encourages people to pin or identify things that they like. It's simple and brilliant. They know your likes, they know your preferences, your style, and even your passions. All the things you as a brand need to know and spend millions trying to figure out. And they know it at the individual consumer level, something that most brands just dream about. What makes Pinterest so interesting and so valuable is the data it has access to. Data is the new weapon in the digital race. The more you know about your consumer, the more you can engage and sustain a relationship with them. Data will drive creative, but creative will only be impactful if you have very specific targeting. And that requires data. Germany is leading the world in its privacy protection, and consumer power is changing the way that brands have to behave. No longer will they be able to take data from a consumer without giving them something in return. Data is becoming the new currency to be traded. As a consumer, I'll give you access to my data if you give me something in return. The science of learning about what people are interested in, matching it to them, transacting with them, and doing this on an ongoing, sustainable basis is what's needed to win in the digital economy. But it's not simple. The science, it is a science, not an art, and those who master that science will prevail. At R4, we've created a cloud-based data science platform powered by machine learning that takes millions of consumer interactions across any digital touchpoint and immediately uses them to form powerful personal relationships with consumers that generate transformative commercial returns. In short, we use data science to help companies win in digital life in ways that consumers have chosen to have a relationship. We're helping brands move from mass market to micro market seamlessly, from spraying money on the Super Bowl ads in the hopes of reaching the largest number of people, to creating one-on-one digital relationships with consumers that can be sustained over the duration of the consumer lifecycle. Targeting consumers at the micro level is irretrievably changing the ways that companies and consumers interact, and digital is the reason this is happening. Digital is a part of every aspect of people's lives and will only continue to grow at light speed. We're working closely with forward-thinking companies like Accenture to help brands become a fundamental and ongoing part of consumers' lives. Digital life is the single most important theme I've seen here at CeBIT. And as we've seen, getting digital right has enormous stakes. Those companies who understand how to participate will live long and prosper, and those that don't won't. Life is good, life is rewarding, and life is digital. Thank you very much.
How are you guys doing? Good? CeBIT good so far? Anybody out there? Very quiet. OK, I want to talk about digital disruption. It's very much upon us at the moment. Do I need to press something special? Apart from the next button. Nope. Is there another clicker? Because this one's not functioning. What is it? It's moving now. OK. So I want to talk about digital disruption. We just had some there ourselves. Digital is something everybody's talking about right now. And for good reason, because there's a ton of technology emerging at the moment. It looks something like this. This is no joke. This is the disruptive technologies that are coming out that are having a massive impact on things. Companies are expanding rapidly. Ecosystems are being formed. And it's an incredibly complicated landscape out there with tons of collaboration, tons of integration, and tons of disruption coming our way. Now, if you think about innovation and what comes with innovation, let me take you on a little bit of a journey. You've probably noticed I'm Scottish. You probably hear that in my accent. And this is a photograph that takes me back to the first time I left Scotland. This was quite a shock for me, leaving Scotland and going to Florida. First of all, because it was warm. I never experienced that before. Not so used to this blue stuff in the sky either. It's a very grey landscape where we come from. But moreover, I'd never seen any kind of innovation like I was seeing there. It was quite incredible. So there were a number of things that were new, business models that were new, technology that was being deployed, and certainly there's nothing like Disneyland that exists in Scotland, and certainly nothing like it today. Now, when I was there, if you went to Disney in the 70s or the 80s, you will remember that they gave you a Polaroid camera as you went in the park, and you would buy the film so you could get instant access to your photos. The first show was sponsored by Kodak, which in turn was quite unusual for me because people don't typically sponsor things in Scotland. But Kodak were sponsoring a show, and they were showcasing what you could do with Kodak technology. And like every teenage kid, I had a Walkman. Who had a Walkman out there? Yeah. Now, it wasn't the best, right? And it certainly wasn't the cheapest, but everybody had them. But all of these companies have been digitally disrupted. Yeah? Polaroid filed for Chapter 11 a couple of years ago. When Kodak put their submission in, Instagram had been bought by Facebook for many billions of dollars, and Kodak had 1,000 employees for every employee that Instagram had. And the real shock for me, though, was the Walkman. The Walkman was particularly painful because Sony owned the recording stars. They owned guys like Michael Jackson. They owned, through Sony Records, the distribution network, and they owned the end customer. And today, they don't own these things anymore. And the Walkman brand itself is more or less gone, and we're all listening to music on other devices now, and with a completely different business model. Now, how did this happen? The reason it happened is quite simple. If you look at where today's corporate leaders grew up, their environment looked something like this. This is a very analog world in which they grew up. Nothing really digital in this picture. There's very few things in this photograph that is actually electrical. You've got this television in the corner, which was the only way you really got information. In Scotland, that meant 2 channels, Okay, they were only really available after 4 o'clock in the afternoon because the schools used the television during the day, and at 4 o'clock it was switched on for everybody else, and it only ran till 10:30 at night. Purely a push environment with very little say over what you watch. And I showed this picture to my kids. I've got teenage kids, and they were laughing. They couldn't imagine this as a world, and one of them said to me, "What's the big thing behind the television?" And I had to explain to him that that's in fact the rest of the television. And that was our world. If you wanted to make a phone call, there were no mobile phones. Certainly when I grew up, there were none. Again, a very analog world, you had to use one of these. It's not even got any electricity. You're generating the electricity when you turn the dial. Again, I showed my kids one of these, and they couldn't understand how you could work this. How would it be operated? And when you turned the dial, it would send pulses down the line, and something at the other end would count the pulses, and it didn't always count correctly, and you could make a new friend that day. If you wanted to know the time, you would have had one of these. Some of you will recognize this, some not. You might have forgotten what the back looked like because you had to wind the thing up. It got its power from a spring inside the device. You had to wind it up, and that powered the alarm as well in the morning. And if you didn't remember to wind it up within 15 minutes of getting out of bed, you were going to have your own private time zone for the rest of the day. If you wanted to get music, there were no Beats by Dr. Dre's in those days. You would have had something like this, a piece of plastic with a needle bouncing up and down, which gave you a great reproduction of the sound of the motor. Every scratch was picked up with crackling and popping, and it didn't sound very good. There were many reasons why it didn't sound very good, with Germany making its own contribution in the form of James Last. And finally, something came out that actually had some intelligence inside it. This was my first CD player. It's a Generation 1 compact disc player. They cost about $1,000 back then. I managed to pick one up at the end of the range quite cheaply. It was very, very heavy, but it was cool, and it worked. And finally, it was intelligent. And the first real industry to get digitized, of course, was the media industry. Music and books were amongst the first to get digitized. And then I went to work, and I was confronted with this. You're back to being an operator of a system again. And you had to know what was happening and where. You had a hard disk inside, you had a diskette with the operating system, and another one with your data, and you had to know what was what. Now, if we fast forward, here's where the real challenge is coming in. The disruption is not coming from the technology. The disruption is much more of a societal disruption. It's coming from the people. It's coming from the new generation. And I know what I'm talking about because I've got a couple of these at home. And I've got plenty of experience of the disruption that's being caused. Let me ask you guys a question. How many people have heard of Game of Thrones? Most of you. OK, I would have thought it would be higher. How many of you have heard of Bethany Mota? Nobody. So Game of Thrones was watched by 8.9 million people. It's the big blockbuster series at the moment, when the new series started recently. And 9.7 million people have watched Bethany Mota's YouTube video of her describing her bedroom. She's a teenager, she's a multimillionaire, and everybody's kids know who she is. And everybody's going there, and everybody's seeing the advertising that's kicking in. It's a big disruption coming from these guys. Now, how do they see technology? They see it completely differently than the previous generations, because for them, it's just a fact of daily life. Their view of technology is very, very simple. They don't care how it works. They're not even sure how it works. If I ask my kids, you know, what are you doing? And they'll say, oh, we're watching Netflix. I say, oh, that's cool. How does that work? What's Netflix? It's on the internet. OK. And do you actually own the movie? How do you mean? Well, do you have a local copy? I don't know what you mean. It's the internet. It's Netflix. Everybody knows how Netflix works. You know, no understanding at all of what's going on under the hood. They've got tons of devices. My 16-year-old is on her 4th iPhone. She's had 2 iPods, iPod Nano, iPod Touch, 2 Nintendo DSs, and she's been online since the age of 6. They start early these days, so completely online at all times. And I can see a couple of people in the audience are going online from time to time. It's everywhere. Does she have a digital identity? Many of you guys have a digital identity. You've all got them. She's got several. Her first one being a Facebook digital identity when she was 12. She asked me, can I get on Facebook? And my initial answer was going to be no, because you're too young. And then I thought, no, if she goes on Facebook, I'll be able to see what she's doing. So I said, yeah, you can have a Facebook account. But she couldn't get in because she typed in her date of birth and it said, you're too young. What can I do, Daddy? Well, I'm in the solutions game, so I said to her, just change your year of birth and you'll get in. It went very quiet for a long time until I went to work the next day and my assistant said, you've got to see this. So in the meantime, my daughter is 24 years old. She's working for Accenture. She's just graduated from Harvard University. She's having done a previous degree in St. Andrews University. And she must have Googled something like smoking hot chick, taken the photograph, used it as a profile picture, and she had 380 friends within 24 hours. And her mother swiftly unfriended me at the same time. She's got lots of digital identities, we all do, and the trouble is you don't actually own them. And this is a big change, and I'll explain that in a second. Who got their password stolen on LinkedIn last year? Okay, not many people are aware. The creepy thing is, I got an email from Facebook that said, you need to change your password because it's the same as your password on LinkedIn. I'm not sure how they knew that, but they knew it, and they were right. I had to change about 100 passwords that day as a result. This leads to a situation where this is a photograph that my wife took, a very different picture than you saw earlier. Everybody's online. She took this without us knowing. The kids are just out of bed. I'm doing my emails on a Saturday morning. At least my girls are doing their homework. The two boys are obviously playing games. The one on the left, he's got two devices. He's got one in portrait and one in landscape. I have no idea what he's doing. And this is just the change within one generation. If you look at 2 generations, we've got a situation like this. There's absolutely no ability for my kids to talk to my mother about anything because there is such a gap in terms of what they have to discuss. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is they're talking a lot about technology, but the second thing is what's very, very different is they get information from other sources. A report was recently done by the Sunday Times that asked children, how do you see the future of television? And the answer was, well, we don't watch television. They're just not interested in television. They've got so many other different ways to get access to the information that they want. So we're in a situation now where there's 4.5 billion people with a mobile phone subscription and only 3.5 billion people use a toothbrush. And I'm sure you all remember when you were growing up, the very first thing you were taught was how to brush your teeth. It's unbelievable, but if you're one of the people that doesn't use a toothbrush and you want to talk to me, use your mobile phone. We've also got a situation where more people are online than have access to refrigeration. The fridge must have been the first device my parents bought when they got married. Keeping your food fresh is very important. But today it's not as important as being online because the social network is very important for people's survival. And I don't mean the internet social networks, I just mean your social network in general, the friends that can help you get a job, fix your car, whatever it may be. And of course, if you're online, you've just expanded your social network. And I'm fascinated myself by how people on Facebook use it differently in different cultures and in different countries. I've got friends all over the world, and it's astonishing how differently it's used in different parts of the world. The trouble is, though, the refrigerators are now on the internet. And I think in the next 5 years, the question will go from, why would you want a fridge to be on the internet to, why didn't I get a fridge that's connected to the internet? Because the things in the fridge are going to be communicating with you via your fridge to tell you that they're going to expire or you need to replenish. If you take something out of the fridge is going to be aware that you used another carton of milk, and it can start an ordering process on your behalf. Facebook is fascinating. Yeah, it's the success of Facebook and the speed at which it got to scale, unbelievable. 618 million users are active every single day. I was certainly online during the presentation. The irony of, Dr. Dre not having audio, that had to go out. And a lot of people are gaining a lot of good information and insights from Facebook. It's the most viewed thing in the world. Yet, you can run it on 2 large Exadata servers from Oracle, such as the power of the technology. What's the significance of this? If you're in marketing and you can find out every day 2.7 billion things that people like, That's powerful. And let me show you how powerful it is. By looking, using analytics at the things that people like, you only need to have 10 likes on Facebook for somebody to know you as well as a work colleague. A friend with about 70 and a family member about 150 likes, and you've got it. A spouse, 300 likes, and the average person has 227 likes on Facebook. Facebook has the power to understand you extremely well. And it's not just Facebook. There's many sites that do this. Amazon, for example. What does Amazon know about you? They know everything about you. My wife said to me in November, I'm not going to get you anything for your Christmas because you've got everything. There's nothing that I can think of that you don't already have. And as she was saying that, I was receiving an email from Amazon recommending 5 really cool things that I really wanted to have. Yeah? This is the reality of the world that we are in. Oops, it's gone the wrong direction. So we're in this situation where it's data overload, and everybody needs to be in the data business. If you're not in the data business, you don't understand your customers well enough. This is why billions of dollars are being invested by venture capitalists in Silicon Valley into analytics, into algorithms and techniques, and why there is this massive push in the analytics space right now. Because all of this information is information overload. A client said to me recently, Jack, what should I do with big data? And I said, well, tell me what you did with small data. So we didn't get very much out of it. And I said, right, you're not going to get very much out of big data, right? It's going to be the same problem. If you don't crack it, you're going to be out of business. And I expect 50% of the Fortune 500 will be out of business in the next 10 years because of the digital disruption that's coming. And you saw some examples earlier on. So tons of information flying around the world. This is the internet heat map. It shows you where people are active on the internet. This was generated using your computers at home that were not properly secured. People hacked in, installed botnet software, and 640,000 computers built this picture, analyzing all the traffic on the internet. 640,000. Very few companies have that power, but collectively, you guys do. And that's led to the situation where everybody starts to get very concerned. There's a huge ton of spying going on. Your governments are screening everything that you do. All the governments are at it. They've all got legislation that allows them to do it. And it means you've really got to start considering different things about your data. I spoke to another client recently who said, we don't want to put our customer data into the cloud because we're concerned about security. And I said, what about your emails? Oh, they're in the cloud. I can tell you everything that's private and confidential in my company is in our emails. I doubt there is anything that is not in email form. You put your emails in the cloud, you might as well put everything into the cloud. Now, 2 things are happening at the moment that are really significant. A couple of things are coming together here. There's a whole heap of technology innovations right now. Connectivity, you've all seen the explosion. Everybody's getting online everywhere all the time. You've got processors getting faster and faster. They don't need to get any faster because we now have multi-core processors. There's tons of analytics and algorithms. There's agile approaches and methods and software. Nanotechnology, things are getting smaller and smaller. There's only 8 atoms now between the transistors on a silicon chip. 8 atoms. It's got to a really, really small scale now. Huge internet backbones everywhere. So everything, all the building blocks you need are there. And now every single device that's out there wants to talk to the internet. You can't buy something and take it home without it asking you to connect it to the internet. I moved house this week, and all the devices are looking for the new network, and it's a lot of work, you know, to get all of these things established. There are toothbrushes that want to monitor how you clean your teeth, and if you clean them differently when you're traveling, and send an email to your doctor to say you've been a bad boy. Yeah. There are hi-fi systems that want to connect so they can get straight into the music streaming. I recently bought a Bose system. It's all talking between the subwoofer and the control unit via wireless, so you can really plug it in anywhere, and then it doesn't really matter. Everything wants to connect. We've got light bulbs now that have got beacons in them so that your phone can communicate with them, and it can tell your phone very precisely, or your phone can calculate very precisely where you are. If you're in a shop and you stop to look at something, the app in your pocket from the shop knows that you stopped there. If you go to leave, then maybe they send you a coupon for a discount. So they know exactly what's going on and where. And when you put these two together, you end up with this incredible cyber world that's immensely complicated. And the bringing together of all of the information technology with all of the operations technology creates new capabilities and also new threats. If you get bored and you want to see how exposed the world is, go to the Shodan website and it will tell you where there are systems out there on the internet where you can go straight into them and do stuff, where there's raw, unprotected access. Have a look at the Shodan website. It gets quite scary if you do. So how are things going to change? In one word, massively. The future is going to look very different than today. So if you look at an industry that's very big in this part of the world, 3-4 years ago, I bought a car based on the engine. It was a very good engine, it's a very good car, and that was my focus, getting that right. My car's not working very well with my iPhone, though. That's become a problem. It'll be easier for me to get a different car in the future than to change phones. That's just the reality. And 37% of the buying decision of a car is around its digital capabilities today. So in the past, we've looked at individual technologies and individual things to stylize and make people buy cars. Today, we're very much in this world where cars are electric. There are now more electrical loading stations than there are gas stations in Europe. People are into car sharing. You've seen what's happening with Uber, which is making a big impact on the taxi world, become very, very digital. The trouble is, everybody likes texting when they're in their car. This is a big distraction for everybody. You're 23 times more likely to crash if you're texting. You're only 4 times more likely to crash if you're drunk. And you're most likely to send silly text messages when you're drunk anyway, so the combination's pretty bad. But 25% of all accidents in the US today all involve the usage of cell phones. In the future, the cars are going to be driving themselves. That's the reality. All the governments are working on legislation now. In California, they will also have a date in the future where you can't drive a car anymore. Only automatically driven cars will be in place. You've seen the Google car. Every Tesla that comes off the production line today has all the hardware it needs to be capable of autonomous driving, and that's going to be upon us. And if you think about the impact, who's going to care about the engine if you don't drive the car? Nobody will care about stuff like this anymore. And car sharing will be quite common. People are going to be sleeping in cars overnight while the car takes them on their journey. It's going to be a very smart world with these very smart cars all driving themselves around. If you look at health, it used to be a question of check the pulse, check the temperature, maybe check the blood and see if there's anything unusual in there, or scan somebody and then figure out what's wrong with them and give them a pill to take. Today, we've already got tele-doctors in place who can do the analysis over the phone. Almost everybody I know has a Fitbit. I've got a Fatbit instead, so that tells me if I need to move more often than I do. We've got the Google contact lens, which sends a message to your phone to tell you if your blood sugar is wrong, because it can pick it up in the fluid on your eyes, and in future they will just change color, so you'll be able to see straight away that you have a sugar issue building up. And things are being 3D printed quite readily. Teeth are being printed. Another example, I saw recently somebody's skull was massively fractured in a serious fall. They managed to get a printout of the skull. And another thing I see people doing, doctors are now getting 3D printouts of people's brains before they do brain surgery, because they can operate on the model, cutting out the tumor before they go and do the real operation. And let's face it, if someone was going to cut your brain open, you'd want them to have tried it 2 or 3 times before, right? It's not something you can afford to get wrong. The future will be very different again. The bathrooms are going to be very, very intelligent. Your toothbrush is going to be sensing for early trace signs of cancer you may have. It'll be monitoring your breath. There'll be infrared sensors in the bathroom, monitoring your temperature to see if anything unusual is happening. Is it trending up? Is it trending down? This device that you see here at the bottom, in the middle, this is a portable MRI scanner that's available at consumer prices that you can use to scan your own body. There's going to be DNA-specific treatments as well. for people. So people who've got known genetic conditions, there'll be very, very specific treatments available. And there's going to be other devices that you swallow that go through you and capture all of the information, or perhaps release chemicals as they go through related to your state of health. If you go back in time 200 years ago, a staggering 77% of people worked in farming, 77%. And of course, we automated agriculture in a big way. Let's face it, agriculture is about turning oil into food. And with that automation, it freed up people to do other things. Now 1% of people in the developed world are farmers. So gone from 77 down to 1. And it's a pretty well understood process. You know, you plough the field. There are tools that you can use around weather and you know, things like this to tell you how much fertilizer and so on you can use. Thank you. I love this constant delivery of schnapps. It's very pleasant. If you think of next generation, though, this is one of the services that Accenture is involved in. You can put a drone up over your field, and you can see, you know, what's in the field and how it's doing. If you change, though, to different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, you can see where crops are stressed and where they're not growing, and you can figure out what to do. So we've had cases where we've actually gone to one farmer and told them, you've actually got a blocked nozzle in your watering machine because we can see you've got this big curve going through the field where nothing is growing, and you need to go there with the water, or you're going to be 10% down on your yield. And these drones, they just fly themselves, take off out the truck, film what they can, they download the materials to an analytics engine, and it can advise the farmer precisely what to do. Now, if you're a farmer in India, say, or China, fertilizer is relatively expensive, so you have to use it sparingly. This is going to be a godsend for feeding very large numbers of people. And if you think about security as another example, this is going to change a lot. In the old days, it used to be about securing your data through backups and, you know, partitioning things on a system so that people could only get access to what they wanted. If you look at where we are today, security is really, really powerful. If you've got RSA running at the highest level on your data, you would need all the computers in the world to run for about 1 billion years in order to decrypt it. That obviously is not an option. And then you get somebody in your organization who just publishes it. The enemy within is much more of a threat than the enemy on the outside. And there are various hacker groups out there, and this isn't just teenagers, you know, trying to do stuff for fun. A lot of it's very professional. It's the governments, it's the mafia. There's a whole heap going on because the world, at the end of the day, is not really as secure as it should be. In the future, it's going to be even worse. There will be a lot of cyber warfare, there is no doubt. Governments will be toppled. You've already seen control systems hacked into by governments trying to do damage to other ones. And it's an area where people do need to be exceptionally careful. If you're going to publish stuff into the cloud or online somewhere, you have to be really thoughtful about where it's going and what people could do with the data that's going to go out there. And another thing that's going to change massively is the area of robotics. Now, robots are already very powerful things. You've probably seen them here. They don't look like people, right? But in the future, they might. But certainly building robots that are exactly like us, this is a very complicated thing to do. But it starts to become possible. These guys are able to dance now. They can look almost like a human with their actions. And if you're able to get something that's very close to a human, they are actually going to be able to do a lot of jobs that don't get done today. Cleaning your house, you know, taking care of the trash and things like this. There's a whole heap of things that will be enabled. And it's estimated that somewhere in the region of 300 million jobs are going to disappear because robots will take them over. Now, the funny thing is, the robots themselves, they're not particularly intelligent today. You guys are, right? And if you understood the power of the human brain, you'd know what I mean. So if a bear walks into this room right now, you guys will know what to do, right? You'll know to run like hell, and you will. You'll see the threat. Nobody will have to explain to you that there's a threat. You'll see it. You've got a brilliant way of doing image processing, and you'll be able to act on it. All the laptops and iPhones are going to get eaten by the bear, right? Because they won't know what it is. And if you think about the power of a computer today, they're pretty able to run a DVD or something, maybe even 10 in parallel, and that's probably about it, and all the power is used up. You, on the other hand, are able to watch the DVD and actually understand what it's all about. If you fast forward, however, 30 years, 35 years, the computer will have the same power as you. And there are devices at the moment that you can put on people's heads that can actually scan what's in their heads. And they expect 35 years from now you'll be able to scan people completely. And you probably saw recently a mouse in a laboratory had a memory inserted into its brain from the outside. So the expectation is you will be able to make a computer copy of somebody, like a robot, as you would see in a movie like Blade Runner, about 35 years from now. The difference is the computer itself is going to cost about $500 at today's prices, and the robot itself is not going to be very expensive. I imagine everybody in the room gets paid a little bit more than that. So there is a whole heap of things being made possible in the digital world, and it's all coming together extremely rapidly. Now, what I would ask all of you to do, there's people of all ages in the room, I see. What I would be thinking if I were you was, if you had access to all the data in the world, and if you had access to all the computing power in the world, what would you do? And what would you do for the companies you represent? So if you think about that, if you had all the data in the world, and you had all the processing power, because in reality, guys, you do have access to all the data in the world. You do have access to all the processing power in the world. If you go to Amazon, you can get access to the power very, very cheaply. They add 5,000 or so servers to their network every day. It's really, really big stuff. If you pay Facebook, they are going to give you access to the data that's being put out there every day. What problems could you solve? Could you understand your customers a bit better? Could you target your marketing to them a bit better? And I just close with one example of where this has been done the most effectively. If you look at a traditional retailer, they capture the name and the address of the individual, what it is they want to buy, and the credit card. The name and address is used more or less exclusively to send the package, the credit card details to get the money. And that's pretty much all that was done. And then along came Amazon.com. They will capture 1 trillion objects of data this year. 1 trillion. Right? And you can guess how many customers they have, how much information they are capturing. If you read a book and stop reading it on your Kindle, that gets uploaded. You didn't like the book. They will remember that. If you read it all the way through, they know that you really liked it and that was a good choice, and recommendations can follow that are in line. If you look at something on the screen, they capture where your mouse is. Most people move the mouse subconsciously to where they're looking. They capture that as well. And they've processed all of this to really understand the customer. Having done all this without having met a customer. Yeah? One of only 2 companies in the top 100 that doesn't have any direct retail outlets that interface with their clients. So how can you get to a level of customer understanding if you're never actually meeting your customer? You can do it if you've got the data, and if you've got the analytics, and you've got the processing power. And that's exactly what Amazon has done very successfully. Have a look at the companies you represent and have a think about the extent to which you're capturing everything you can capture about your customer. And what could you do if you had a lot of processing power and you could analyze all of that data? And if you do that, your company is going to become a much stronger place. So guys, if you're an Accenture customer, I want to say thank you for your loyalty and faith in us. If you're an Accenture employee, I want to say a huge thank you for all the brilliant stuff you do every day out in the market. And if you're not an Accenture customer and you want to become one, I'm down here, and you can come and talk to me. We'd very much appreciate the opportunity to help all of you with the business. I wish you all the best for the future, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of CeBIT. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Perfect timing. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, welcome to our talk. So we are going more here on the meta level of innovation, so not so much into the product details, but firstly we would like to introduce ourselves. So, Jörg?
Jörg, I've been working with digital startups and internet startups for the last 20 years. Some worked not so well, a lot worked really good, one worked particularly well. I started a company and sold it to eBay and then ran eBay in Germany for 5 years. And started a non-profit organization called Better Place. And since 2013, I'm managing director at Axel Springer Plug and Play, where we invest in early stage startups, but I think I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So I'm Uli. I'm by education electrical engineer, so I have been working all my life for larger corporation, but co-founded also there a couple of companies, and it's a nice mixture between us. For this event, I took my suit so that you can see who works for the corporate and who for the accelerator.
And by the way, I have a cool Twitter name.
And one slide regarding Axel Springer for those who don't know what the company is about. So it's a large publishing corporation. So with a couple of brands, I have one with me, developed, built. But also many others, and we would like to share with you the way into digitization for this company and how we work together with innovative companies like the companies we see around here, this stage. So it's a company, 3 billion in revenue, around 14,000 employees. So it's a large media group, and I would say a medium-sized company compared to many others. Regarding transformation of media companies, and I think even when you are not in the media business, so it might be interesting to watch what happened to this industry or in this industry, because this will happen to, I think, to every industry in the future, and with the same speed I expect. We don't know when, but it will come. So digitization in the media business. So when you're a classical print publisher, so that's the world. What happened? So the content went online, yes. The content went free. So so the business model is gone. So the ads. The ads are now more and more performance-based, and the classifieds, which is in German die Kleinanzeigen, are now also on online portals. Everybody here in this room can be or can start his or her own blog in a minute, right from here. You might have some of you might have more followers on Twitter than a newspaper or a TV station. And so the market and the value chain of a publisher changed totally. So it opened up opportunities for almost everybody here. So it went from print to online to mobile to TV platforms to watches to we don't know, and this is the portfolio of Axel Springer, or part of the portfolio of Axel Springer right now. So, which is still the paper. The big brands are, yes, they're still printed and it's a profitable business, but they're also on all these channels I mentioned before. So you see it's more complex, more diverse to create a media product. But I think out of a user's perspective, it's a lot more interesting and entertaining, and you have access to the media now from everywhere. So the marketing models, so there are one, and so we saw some surprises here, and I have one surprise with me. When you fold up newspapers like this, you find these brochures, and even these brochures are digitized right now. There is a company here called Kaufda. They started with digitizing them, and it sounded odd in the beginning that people want to see these brochures in a digital way. But on the smartphone, you see now the offerings of the shop around you on a map, and it's a pure mobile-first application right now, and it's heavily used. And that's something you can't invent out of a larger corporation. So you need people just starting it, trying it out, and being successful. So, and what we did, we tried to team up with these companies, and also in the classifieds business, which was printed in the papers, so the job portals, the job sites, job offerings, the real estate offerings, they are now on the web, on platforms like Stepstone or Immonet. So the company started with 100% print and is now at 50% in revenues digital. And this is a process over the last, I'd say, 8 to 10 years right now. And the profit is even higher out of digital product. So we would like to share with you how we manage this. And this is a picture of the process of the last years. So it starts in 2005 with projects, we call it organic growth projects, where we put resources on brands, on already existing activities like build.de or like Welt Online, enlarged the teams, and started becoming #1 there. So, and where this wasn't possible, so where others were more successful than we were at that time, we tried to team up with the management and acquired the company. And acquiring doesn't mean that it's integrated in the group. It means that the management stays on board and stays also a shareholder in the company, and that we team up and develop together these new markets. So we did this here with a lot of companies, and I think it's more than 200 projects we did so far. So this sounds a little bit erratic, or random. And I would like to put this again into an order. And this is again this paid models, marketing models. So where advertisement is the main business model, paid models is where you pay for the content, and the classified ads model. And this, in the center for our company is journalism, so which is to us the glue for all these separated businesses. Well, so so that was the first part. And what we learned here over the years. So when we started with digitization at zero, we learned that there is innovation out there which you can't expect coming out of your own company. So it's innovation, so where you have to team up with those innovators, that you have to maybe acquire them, have to partner with them, and we did it with a strict rule. Does it fit into these? Go back into these 3 pillars: paid, marketing, or classifieds. Are the companies profitable? Are they growing? Is there strong management? Will the management stay on board? Do they want to work together with us? And is it not overpriced? So we built this portfolio with lots of acquisitions right now, and it's not an integrated company. It's more a network of, we call it United Artists, working on their own businesses and independent. And when there is, and there are connections in terms of getting traffic, building brands, and so forth, and So by using these network effect, all the companies have been growing so far. So that's one part, what you can do as an established player in terms of digitization. So I'm not talking too much about internal R&D and development, so which is also an important part. I want to talk more about working with innovative or disruptive companies. What you don't get by acquiring late-stage companies is, or you are not close enough to the next stage of disruption. Yeah, so you learn about classifieds, which is a business out of the 90s. It's a nice business, it's profitable, it's working fine, but there are a couple of hundred or 1,000, we don't know, entrepreneurs around it and trying to find a new way for the classifieds business, for the media business, for the marketing business. So you have to go to come closer to it. And that's something we do here with the Business Accelerator, because it's nice to talk with you. I think some of you are here from these stands, from the startups. So it's nice to talk with you. But talking is one thing, understanding and learning from both sides is working together. So you need to have a way to work together. So one is doing projects together. Another way is putting money into the companies and working together too. Yeah? And that's what Jörg runs with Axel Springer Plug and Play.
So this is what our office looks like. We are like 200 meters away from Axel Springer's headquarters. We have 2 floors of office space. This is the accelerator space. It's one open office space. It used to be the emergency newsroom of Bild Zeitung, a little bit away from Axel Springer in case the Golden Tower gets damaged somehow. It looks this colorful because we always have an artist in residence program together with the startup. So it's art, it's not graffiti, it's art. And what we do there is we offer 100-day-long programs, 3 of them per year, where we invite companies and we invest into the companies. We have like 8 to 15 companies take part in all our programs. We select them out of hundreds of applicants that apply online. Then we do pitching days in Berlin and for each program in another city. Our program is in English, and we selected companies, or the founders of the companies we invested into. They are from 44% of the companies are not from Germany. We've invested into 66 companies so far. 60 of them still exist. We think that's good. The actual metric, how we measure success, is how many of the companies get follow-on investments after our program. So we invest in the beginning of the program 25,000 euros. We get 5% of the company, and we do 100 very, very active days where we try to balance, on the one hand, time for the companies to work on their products in this space. Then we create a lot of input for them with lots of workshops. We have 200 mentors who've started companies before and have a lot of experiences to share. We create a lot of opportunities for the companies to do business with Axel Springer, with all the portfolio companies of Axel Springer, with Plug and Play, our second shareholder in California, and with a network of companies that we have everywhere. This actually is Plug and Play. Plug and Play has, I think, 7 locations in the US and all over the world. It's also a family-run business. Saeed, the founder, has started with Plug and Play in the 90s. He had around 1,800 companies so far in his accelerator, so a little bit bigger than we are. And he was one of the first investors of PayPal. He was one of the first investors of We had
lending club.
Lending club, they took public last year. So they always have between 300 and 350 companies in their portfolio at any given time. So we totally believe in the bridge between Germany and the US. And by inviting companies from all over Europe to take part in our Berlin program, we think that that building bridges between the companies, our partners, our network, bigger corporations, that's actually why we are here. We are working with Accenture to connect our portfolio companies more with bigger companies to do more business together, and by that making our companies more successful, and by that executing our business model, because that's also a very important part for us. Our business model is to make money through exits. So we have a classic VC business model. All the learning experiences, all the exchange that we do, it's like a collateral effect that our shareholders want and that our partners also want. But in the end, and this is like the real synergy when it happens, is when the companies get to do good business and make money by doing this and grow by doing this and create more value by doing this, we will be able to execute our business model and make money by selling our shares in the companies. Maybe one of our shareholders might buy them later, but we never know. So that's why we have two shareholders.
But this is an important point. So I think it wouldn't work. So doing strategic investment very early, so when the companies are cheap, and then selecting the best, buying them at a low price and selling the rest at a high price. So that doesn't work, and that's why these accelerator is run like a venture capital company and not like a strategic investment vehicle. So, please, Stu.
This is what we like to invest into. So we also try to invest into media-related companies who are coming from the fields of classifieds, advertising, and content. But we also allow ourselves to be a little bit more broad. So we look at e-security, Internet of Things, fintech, payments, connected car models, where we try to invest into companies where we can offer synergies with the network around us. And what we've learned is that the companies have a tendency, when we invest into them, they are quite young. They evolve their business model, they might even pivot and do something new. But we then know them, we know the founders, have worked with them, so we can be their shareholders over a longer period of time. And actually our most successful companies so far, they come from all different kinds of areas. Number 26, it's a new bank. They just launched a new bank account in Germany that gives you a lot of transparency into how you spend your money. They have really a nice interface. You can easily transfer money. I think it's the future of banking. Zisoboats, it's closer to media related because it's a classified business. It's already the biggest platform to charter boats, professional boats. Blockbuster, advertising model. They are like long-tail advertising solutions for bloggers and smaller websites. Very interesting model. And then two models that are actually disruptive to one of the big assets of Axel Springer, to Stepstone. Truffles. They are like the Tinder for jobs. So you give them your profile. They drag your profile from Xing or LinkedIn, and then they show fitting jobs, and you can say interesting, not interesting, not interesting, interesting. And Job Spotting, I would say deep data company. They use all kinds of algorithms to do job and candidate matching.
Yeah. So and how do we work together? So. In the moment when we invest, it's not clear. So whether they will support the other companies or they will be a competitor. But So we've made very good experiences in bringing them together, and they work together, so they team up and work on different aspects. So it's a traffic source for Stepstone, and they get contacts which would take maybe a couple of emails and phone calls to get in touch with these companies. So we lower the barrier between the startup companies and the more established companies.
And our job there is to like connect real people with each other.
Yeah.
So we connect the founders of Job Spotting with the CEO of Stepstone, and then take them out for lunch. And then first they are all very careful to talk to each other, and then after an hour they figure out that they are all very smart, have either done really great things or want to do good things, and then try to work together and find out if that has like a sustainable basis to do it. And luckily, usually they find a sustainable basis.
Okay, so one.
That's the last slide, actually. That's the current batch. The company just started last Monday. They do all kinds of things. One company, we are proud of course, about all of them. One is missing because they weren't here when we did the photo shoot, and we couldn't figure out how to put like 10 pictures on a collage like this. Let me mention just one. The guy sitting there alone with the green vest, he's the first real content startup that we have ever been able to find that we think is investable. It's called Egyptian Streets. It's English-speaking news from for the Arabic countries. They are, since last week when the new numbers came out, the biggest English-speaking news source, independent news source for Egypt. So there are like a lot of synergies, and I particularly have a lot of fun right now taking Mohammed around within Axel Springer and have him meet like all the editors who find it's really, really interesting to meet like journalists from Egypt and new ways to create content, and they use like all kinds of channels to reach their audience. So it's really interesting for us to have like the first real media company in our portfolio, because I don't know if you look at the internet world in Germany, there are not that many, or in Europe, there are not that many content-related startups. In the US, you see quite a lot more. Here in Europe, we rarely see them, so we are pretty happy to have them around.
So I'd like to encourage you to do more content startups. Yeah. Some more.
No, I think that.
So we're almost at the end. So that's our mission to turn the company from a publisher into a digital publisher, into the leading digital publisher, and to recall it, so it's a couple of measures. So it's internal development of new electronic brands, digital brands, extending the existing brands over all channels. So it's working together with established pure digital companies like a Stepstone is, the job portal, and it's Jörg explained it. It's important to work closely together with very young companies and the entrepreneurs behind it in a very early stage, and where it's not clear whether the new business model will come up. And it's not about getting ideas about the business model, so it's about doing business together, and the first step in doing business together is putting money into the company and investing into it.
Yeah, and it's about daring things. So it's, I think, really hard for an established organization to dare to let, for example, a company work with their data, or let a startup of 6 people work with the content of Bild-Zeitung. That's something you really have to dare, and you have to let them like launch this app, and then you have to see that the app is growing faster than your own app, and then you have to face all the internal discussions like we have our internal development, we have an external company, they are doing this, and it's a lot faster because they are a lot smaller, don't have any legacy. And you have to build an organization that embraces this, that fights the fights that need to be fought, but also tries to really innovate. And most of the times, it's an as well as and not an either or. I think that's a really important thing for big corporations. Thanks for listening.
And yeah, have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Nice having you here, guys. He holds 7 international patents. And I really look forward, I'm excited.
Thank you.
To listen to your keynote, because he wears right now this cute little gadget. What is it?
This is the Emotive Insight Neuro headset.
So we hear more about it right now.
We will.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. OK, so we're going to concentrate on wearables. And as you know, you can get wearables that measure just about anything: your heart rate, temperature, blood pressure, respiration rate, where you are, how much you move. We decided to look at the brain. Nobody else has been concentrating on wearables for the brain. So this is why there's a bit of a gap we identified. Mind the gap. By the way, this headset is actually on display up at the Accenture stand, up at the booth, so you can try it for yourself. So we started out this business by asking ourselves, how do we interact with our devices, computers, anything like that? So usually the interaction is very much fixed. You have a mouse, a keyboard, touchscreen, maybe some motion sensors or some other things that detect what you're doing. But generally, the software gives you a script and you follow the script. You may feel like you're in control, but the software programmer that wrote the software is actually in control. You're just presented with a limited range of options and you can't interact outside a certain set of parameters. The computer doesn't understand how you're feeling. It doesn't know you're having a bad day. So the question is how we interact with other humans. And just looking at this image, you can tell there's an awful lot going on there. The guy's in trouble, obviously. There's a lot of attitude, there's facial expressions, there's body language. Even without any speech, you can tell that there's a lot of emotional interaction going on, and people are playing off each other's emotions. We actually want to introduce this kind of interaction into your interaction with your devices. And we also want our devices in turn to feed back and give us information about how our emotions are working, how our brains are working, what kind of things that we're doing. So how do we interact with our devices the way we interact with people? And the sub-question is, what can our devices tell us about our mental performance and our mental behavior? Well, we need an interface. And this is the interface we chose. It's an amazingly evolved system. This is where you do all your thinking. This is where your consciousness lives. Controls what we think, feel, do. It's also a bit of a black box. People don't really know what goes on in there. There's a lot of research going on right now. Generally, it's into people with disease. If you have epilepsy, there's a massive amount of information on epileptics, autistics, depressives. Not so much information on how it is, what the brain looks like when you're not actually suffering from some form of disease. Everybody is to some extent on a spectrum, but we don't have a real database of what information goes on in the brain and what a normal brain looks like. So how do we interface directly with the brain? Well, here's the kind of thing that medical science has come up with. This is a conventional EEG system. It takes about 2 hours to put on. Costs about $30,000 to $60,000. You can use MRI as well, but it's not very portable. This doesn't look too portable either, and it certainly doesn't look comfortable. You can see the user's chin is locked down, so he doesn't dislodge any of the sensors. Fortunately, there is a better way. This is our first generation product, the Emotive Epoch. which uses 14 sensors. It uses salt water, and you just put it on. It takes about a minute to set up. Users can set it up themselves. That's been on the market for about 5 years. And we're now moving on to our next generation product, which is this one I'm wearing. This one is designed to be much more of a wearable rather than a scientific instrument. And it's more of a fashion item, so it has to be unobtrusive but look cool. That's the whole idea. It's got to look good, it's got to interface with your mobile phone, work wirelessly. So let's have a look at how it works. If I can just get a connection going here. Okay. Just one moment. Apologies. There we go. Okay, so this is my brain in real time. What you're looking at is a fight between adrenaline from speaking and jet lag. I'm Australian. I've come from Australia, 30-hour trip, and I'm currently, my body thinks it's about 2 a.m. You can see that there's all kinds of activity going on in different parts of the brain. And this is the kind of thing that we study. In addition, I'll just show you what we do with this information. 1 second. Apologies. Okay, so this is part of our software application. So the data is streaming in real time wirelessly to my PC at the moment, but it could be to my phone or my iPad or any other device handy. And I'm just going to demonstrate mental commands. So this system is designed, okay, challenging interface. Okay. I'm going to try and pull this cube. So this thing has no idea what I'm intending to do. It's completely blank, and I'm just about to use an expert system software to help train it. I hope. Okay, demonstration effect. Apologies. Okay, it's not going to work. All right, we'll just move on with the talk, and I'll try and do a demonstration later on, so more privately. Okay. So, back to the presentation. Okay. What kind of interactions are possible when you can read the brain? You can see that my brain was actually working, but not very well. So there are different kinds of interactions. We can actually track emotional states, and we can track facial expressions, and we can, under normal circumstances, issue direct mental commands to make things happen. So the kinds of interactions that we can have are either passive interactions, where the system monitors your behavior, monitors your emotional state. It tracks how you're feeling, what things are doing. And it can just basically adjust itself to react to your emotional state. So in other words, your computer or your mobile phone knows how you're feeling. We can have active interactions, so this is where you can issue direct commands and start to control your devices, make phone calls, switch between apps, do many different things, play games. And then there's what I call close the loop. So this is feedback. So you feel bad, the system provides you with some sort of stimulus, and you start to feel better, and it actually understands that you're doing that. Or maybe you want to feel bad, and it could give you a negative experience, or it might want to actually push you through some sort of emotional trajectory. So computer games these days insist on driving you through these massive trajectories, and we can actually track very accurately what's going on there. Okay. So, passive interactions. We monitor subconscious states, emotions, moods, and responses, and we make the interaction much more intuitive. Just adjust everything to the user's responses, and you change the user experience into a user journey, and it's trackable. So you can adjust the environment to suit your mood. And believe it or not, there's a fair amount of research on this area. People are proposing all sorts of things. So if you're feeling cold, it can adjust the heating. If you're feeling sleepy, it can adjust the lighting. It can adjust the music, the volume, select the kinds of music that you want to listen to. It can monitor and track your responses to events and activities in real time. And there's a whole new field opened up called neuromarketing, where this person is wearing a set of eye-tracking goggles and a neuro headset. And people who design supermarkets are very interested to know how you react to their products and the placement, where you look and how you feel about it. And this information is very valuable. It doesn't just have to be a...
How much to Los Angeles?
One way or round trip?
You're kidding, right?
So you can see in real time here we're monitoring emotions and where the gaze is. And this is very valuable information for designing an experience, in this case a movie clip. We can do other things like enhancing search. So you can add emotional tags onto different items. So you can search through your image portfolio, or you can have Spotify recommend the right sort of music for you. Various things like that. So everybody has a photo collection that looks a bit like this. You've got some obscure DCIM name on the photograph. You've got a date and a time and maybe a location if you're very lucky. How do you find an image that you want, or even how do you review images? And it'd be much better if we could actually emotionally tag all of these things. So if you knew how you were feeling when you took the picture, or when you've reviewed the picture at a later time, so maybe it was a happy photo from your wedding, but you've had a divorce, so you don't feel so great about it. Next time you see that picture, that can be registered as well. And if we can sort things by emotional tags as well as all the other stuff, that allows us to go and find images. And up in this top right-hand corner, we're very happy. We love this sort of image. This happens to be an image of a wallaby in my backyard, which was very exciting. We'd very seldom see them. So you can add emotional nuance onto just about anything in real time. So you can enhance search engines, public events. You can go to a concert. Thousands of people can be sitting there, and their emotions are streaming live, and the performers can actually tell how their audience is reacting, even if they couldn't already. The other thing is that you can make your user interface react much more appropriately. We've all had this stupid paperclip, or at least anybody my age has this stupid paperclip pop up, and you don't really want it, so your system learns from that and actually doesn't give you that sort of interaction again. You can adjust the interaction so that it's more appropriate to how you're feeling. The other thing is we can quantify and monitor your mental state. So this is a road safety advertisement or road safety campaign that we were involved in, and we actually monitored driver attention in different distracting situations.
We came up with the rather unconventional approach of creating the world's first attention-powered car. It uses a neuro headset to measure the driver's brain activity. As well as demonstrating the problem, it also allowed us to collect data so we could better understand the issue. Here are a few things we learnt. From our road trip around WA, we discovered inattention affected every driver, on average at least once every minute. Mobile phones were particularly troublesome.
You lost attention immediately.
And it wasn't just phone calls that saw average attention levels drop. Other uses, including checking Facebook when driving, also proved worrisome.
Checking Facebook while driving. Okay. All right. For the purpose of the road safety campaign, we actually made the car stop when the driver lost attention, so the accelerator was disconnected. For a commercial application, we probably wouldn't do that. I don't think we'd get away with it, but we can certainly ring an alarm on your mobile phone. So what other kinds of interaction do we have? Direct mental command. So this is the fun part. This is where you actually do magic. You just think something and it happens. You can use your facial expressions. You can enter emoji into your text streams automatically. So if you're smiling, it knows and enters a smiley. And the motion sensor in the headset also. There is a 9-axis sensor here. We can track your where you're looking, so we can adjust the camera in a game or a virtual environment. And we can monitor your gait. So if you're maybe you have Parkinson's disease, early stage, it can actually detect the tremors. It can see how well you're walking. If you're drunk, it can probably figure out just from your motion, if not from your brain state. So we can do activities, interactions in the virtual world. This is an image of somebody playing completely hands-free, playing World of Warcraft using an emotive headset. We're not restricted to the virtual world. Of course, with a few actuators, you can get out into the physical world as well. In this case, we're flying a drone, just with mental commands. The drone is being steered, and it will turn left and right according to the... you'll see the cube in the background is doing various things. This one's a bit scary, driving a car with your brain.
For our second experiment, we trained the computer to recognize 4 brain patterns. The test subject can steer the car to the left or the right. He can also accelerate or decelerate the car.
So the user
Of course, you should never try this at home. For safety reasons, we tested in a large open space at Tempelhof Airport in Berlin. You can see here the test subject incrementing or decrementing the steering angle.
This one blows me away. This guy is actually improvising against his own brain. So the piano is automatically playing according to his emotions and his mental commands. Then he's playing on the same keyboard. Pretty impressive feat. Okay, the fact that you don't need to use your hands is quite enabling for people who can't. And it also opens up some capabilities to restore activity. Can drive a wheelchair, for example, just under mental command, and it can be steered as well. This just shows the rehabilitative power of being able to do something with your mind. This particular girl had a serious accident about 10 years earlier and is a quadriplegic. And this is the first time she was ever actually able to actuate anything. You'll notice that her head is being held up, and so she's basically been completely disconnected for about 10 years. After about 3 weeks and 4 more sessions, you can just see the difference.
That up by herself. This was the first time that we've worked together that she could hold her head upright.
It's quite an amazing story.
I always thought that it'd be amazing if you could make music with your mind. People that don't have the ability to even move their hands or even move, that they can basically use this technology to make music.
Really? Okay, and the other kinds of interactions are when we close the loop. So we can just be a couple of minutes here. So we can use neurofeedback to basically react to how you're feeling, give you some feedback, and then improve your interaction. So you can teach yourself to meditate or focus, and there's a lot of research on that. Here's a little application that uses the headset.
I'm really, really, really sorry. I know it's not really
Okay.
polite, but they told me the time is over, so we have to stop in a few seconds. I'm sorry for that.
That's fine. I'll just rush through these last slides. You can use this technology to enhance your mood, basically. ADHD support for learning applications. We won't go through that. And then there's the Insight app. So we're making an application which will monitor your mental state through different activities. You can tell it what you're doing, and at the same time, we'll be building a massive cloud database of information which will be available to the research community. The user gets the benefit in that they get reports and they get a better understanding of their brain, and they can learn to improve their concentration and meditation levels. And our not-so-hidden agenda is to build a big data set. We'll just flick through that.
What do you think about when the people just come to your booth up and you can talk to them a little bit more there?
Absolutely.
They have hours.
Absolutely.
I think we close at 6, so
Okay.
you can meet Mr. Meckler up there at the Accenture booth, right?
Yes,
And they can just come there and talk to you.
they can.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Give him a warm hand.
Thank you.